Are live back for another episode of the AltMed podcast. I'm here, Andrew Dowling, with my co-host, Mitch Kurtz, and I'm going to let Mitch do the introduction here.
The introduction? Well, we have the very, very famous, infamous, it's a bit of both, Tommy Huppert, for the CEO of Cannatrek, and doing some amazing things in Australia, some amazing projects. And I would love for you to say hello and tell us a little bit about your journey to date, because that's what we all want to know.
Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew and Mitch, for having me on today. I'm just a simple guy from St Kilda. And how did a humble accountant get into this game? That's what I asked myself. It's quite simple. You know, there was an unmet need. I saw, you know, we've seen this space for decades, and slowly, country by country, we saw cannabis licenses appear. First in the Netherlands many years ago, and in Israel and Canada, and all the challenges in America, and we had this resurgence, I think, in 2014, where there was a vision for medicinal cannabis to enter the Australian continent. So I was just in the right place at the right time, and really fortunate to get one of the early licenses. And from that moment, we've been looking at how to build a great Australian business from day one. And a lot of challenges with the regulation and the legislation in its original and its reenacted format, which is currently undergoing some change. But I think Australia has a real opportunity to make a place in the world and be a leader. With great climate, great people, great story of cannabis. I believe the country was founded on hemp, so it's in our bones and in our blood, so to speak. In our history books.
Fantastic.
That's what we should be teaching loud and clear in primary school. So
it's a bit of a process of rediscovery, isn't it?
Certainly.
I'd say the accounting background probably helps you count all those plants that we can see in your background there. Maybe it might be worth from the outset just notifying people that you're not actually sitting in the cannabis.
Or are you?
Or are you?
Yeah, I'm actually in St Kilda, and what you see behind me is our facility in southern Queensland, which has been a project of over 4 years, navigating the legislation and being able to essentially build a factory which hadn't been built before. So it was quite challenging, and we're really lucky to have pulled it off, and now we're in perpetual harvest.
Fantastic. Harvest, that's probably news or music to many people's ears at this point, because obviously one of the pressing things right now is the flower shortage that we hear so much about.
Sure.
In every podcast, in every news article, in every LinkedIn post. Any thoughts on that current situation in Australia?
Yeah, so listen, the local industry is getting up on its feet, and it's had challenges, and we look forward to seeing more and more companies like ourselves getting up and going through the process of building farms and releasing products. So I think there'll be a lot of maturity in the next 12 to 24 months in Australia, and we'll see a real industry.
And I've got a question, Tommy, just about the fact that you mentioned you were one of the first people, or Cannatrek, your company was one of the first to get licenses. You've kind of played a bit of a role in shaping the industry. And I know you were talking about how Australia has the opportunity to become a leader, but just in fleshing that out, how have we gone down a different path in Australia, and what do you think the future looks like for cannabis in Australia?
Yeah, I think we've got good foundations, again, with the legislation. The most important thing that we have a meeting of the eye between the stakeholders and the regulators. There's now an open channel of communication, and without doubt, that is the key to a robust industry. It was a bit difficult early days, but I think there was a bit of overwhelmingness in the industry, both from the applicants and the government, just trying to understand the speed of the rollout and the interest from from whether it's the patients or the prescribers. So we see a lot of merging of real interests, which is better healthcare for patients. We want to provide a natural medicine. There's an outpouring of interest in research, which is rolling throughout all our universities. So it is quite exciting, I think, in the maturity of the market.
Yeah, it feels like some of the feedback has been that Australia is pushing towards being possibly one of the most, if not the most advanced medical operation potentially in the world, maybe only in line with that, I don't even know, maybe in Germany or potentially Switzerland. But it feels like we're really headed in that direction because of the stringent protocols and rules and regulations put in by the TGA and the ODC and all the different bodies. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, absolutely. The TGA is an excellent name in international pharmaceutical supply chains. We hear of the great CSL. It was a government business, and it's turned into a leading worldwide phenomena. They're working very hard at the moment with the COVID-19 vaccines. And Australia's an agricultural country. We have great resources. We have sun, so we have everything going for us. We have innovation. To be competitive, we're going to have to be more innovative. But if we can put all that together with the acceptance in global markets, there's a great opportunity for us to be one of the, not only the growers, but the manufacturers and the distributors in a complete integrative model, which is really what would be a prize for Australia. Export income and jobs locally.
I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here, but I've, in talking to just different people who use medicinal cannabis, both black market and legal products, they often describe that, we've carved out this niche for ourselves where our identity is this kind of pharmaceutical grade industry. And, does that come at the cost potentially of a situation where we actually have a recreational market and where we have the potential for people to participate in recreational industry? Do you see that by going so far the way that we've gone, that might potentially have an impact on a potential recreational industry in Australia?
I think Australia's a chance to look at other jurisdictions, Canada, Israel, Germany, Netherlands, and really cherry pick in a way what is best for Australians. And how do you know that? There's political, there's cultural, and everything in between. So I don't like using the word recreational. I think, cannabis, alcohol, other products, they're all considered drugs. And I use that word in inverted commas. Food can be a drug as well. Chocolate can be an addictive drug and not good for you. So, everything in moderation. But I think we're looking at a regulated market from a product point of view, which is embedded in our TGA and the supply chain, good quality. We do lots of tests on toxins on the product, and that's good for consumers. At the moment, you have this illicit industry, and no one knows what it's, how it's grown, and actually what is the consumer receiving in the illicit market, which is a huge problem. So, if we look at the alcohol industry, a classic model where it was illegal, pre-1930s, there was moonshine, people were, brewing in their garage, but commercial scale only got going in the 30s. But, we do have still issues with alcohol, as everyone knows, but cannabis has been thriving underground, and almost, we're seeing this turnaround, whether it's the policing of the product or the quality of the product, but also culturally. How will this roll out in the short, medium, and long term? I think we have to look at the other jurisdictions and really analyse, what would fit the Australian model, and meet with the regulator, debate it openly, and get a consensus, politically, stakeholders and government.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever get to a point where it's a free for all in Australia. I think I agree. I think we'll look to other jurisdictions around the world for guidance on, say, food safety standards if we were to ever go down that path. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion. But I want to now take you to Cannatrek because I know it's your baby, for want of a better term. And and it's been it's just been an amazing journey, and you're sort of in the process now of transitioning between manufacturing and activities that you're doing in Brisbane at the Brisbane facility, and moving to the Shepparton project. So are you able to maybe just give us a rundown of where the company's up to, and even perhaps some comments about the journey to date?
Yeah, so as mentioned, the site behind me has been our focus for the last 4 or 5 years, both in the planning and the building and deployment, and now the growing. We're now moving to a beautiful area in Victoria, in Shepparton, which is the fruit bowl of Australia. Fantastic weather, long sunlight days. We have a beautiful property of 180 acres, plenty of water, completely flat, and we're planning to use the property at its best, in a combination of a glass house, and we have a full development approval for that site. So we're going to build it in a scaled operation. We're going to grow as the industry grows. Also looking at an outdoor grow there, and some ancillary support, which will help us manufacture and distribute products. So we're now very close to turning dirt on that site. It was a challenging year last year with COVID, but we used that time to further plan and drill down, every aspect of the project. So we're looking forward for the next 12 to 18 months as that project gets up, and that'll vastly expand the scale of Cannatrek's production footprint, but also the services that we feel are essential in the supply chain.
Sounds like has the town of Shepparton, I just got a question on Shepparton. Has it been quite warm about the idea of having a big cannabis facility? I mean, it's good for local employment, but how's that all been?
Oh, we've had a really an absolute, I would say, welcome mat for us. The company, we went early to visit the council and made sure that the process was obviously above board and accepted. And at the end of the day, it's an agricultural town, and we're looking at securing a good grow model and value add. So there's a lot of plus for the Shepparton community. We're engaging with a lot of the trades there already. It's going to be quite exciting, and a lot of positive knock-on effects for the community in general.
Amazing.
Right. It sounds like you're really quite busy. I think I can tell just by the number of emails that has come through during this podcast. We can hear them buzzing off as we go along.
Is that your emails?
But there is one burning question. I hear people talk about this all the time, and I think you'd be the perfect candidate to answer this type of question. Your personal opinion on local versus imported at this current time, when people are accessing imported. I don't mean black market imported. I mean imported from companies that are operating locally, versus the product that is being grown in Australian soil. Where do you think they sit in a global scale at the moment?
I think you're talking about quality, or
I'm going to leave you to interpret that one, and what you think.
I think that when I saw this opportunity, the fact that we could import product and start to develop a supply chain and offer product to patients early on was really important. So that we're still in that phase. I mean, we know over 90% of the medicine is being imported. So it's a crucial part that continues on. There will be a pivot towards local production, and I think that'll develop over the next 2 to 3 years. Obviously, we'd like to have more local production, and I think that we'll see that happening very soon.
Okay, fantastic. And I guess hand in hand with that conversation comes the one that everyone seems to talk about, which is the S3 down scheduling and the plays that everybody's kind of making towards. There's a bit of a V line towards that. Feels a bit like the Holy Grail at the moment. But yeah, what are your thoughts personally on that teaming race?
Listen, it's I think it's a stepping stone to seeing CBD as a wellness product. I think it's the first stage, and it is a very high criteria that the TGA are asking. I mean, when you think about it, you can actually access the product today just via a prescription. So to be able to have this pass to the pharmacy as the prescriber from a GP, it's not really changing how you can get the medicine. It's who is really signing off to get the medicine. So it's going to be interesting, the time and effort and the cost to actually pass the criteria. It's very rare globally to have the requirements to pass the pharmaceutical barrier. As you know, GW Pharma, I think, are one of only one to have got a medicine registered. So we've been working for many years. Interesting how this will roll out, the S3 legislation and the flexibility of the TGA. But it's something that we're obviously very keen to pursue.
Well, in terms of that, then maybe a better question is what type of products do you see in the future of Australia? Which ones do you see being the kind of seminal products that will be?
Yeah, and I've got a tail question on that too, just while it's burning in my head, is do you think that the first S3 product is going to be a strictly sort of, CBD isolate product in oil, or do you think it will be something more akin to a broad or a full spectrum with, less than 10%, less than 2% minor cannabinoids? Sorry, very technical question there, but just needed to get that one in.
I think the S3 won't be so much how many milligrams per mil, it'll be how many milligrams per mil will prove efficacy. I think the safety will be an easy criteria, but the efficacy of a medical claim is really the challenge for researchers. And will it exceed 150 milligrams per mil? Potentially. I think it's a waiting game. I think it's worth going down this pathway, because wouldn't it be wonderful to actually have a claim a bit like, vitamin C is good for the winter cold, and it's over the counter. So to have CBD for a back pain, or for whatever medical claim, because I think by having the medicine in the current form where SAS pathway is the only access, it leaves a lot of skepticism and a lot of questions asked by the general fraternity. So by passing through this S3 barrier that the TGA are giving will surely give the triumphant position of cannabis as the king of the herbs.
That's interesting.
Why is it being given? It's got hundreds of cannabinoids. Most products have one or two. So
it's that's an interesting point. So saying kind of if or when CBD makes it into an S3 format and it's kind of the clinical data is done, you think there might be a shift in the doctor community to look at the entire plant as a different way?
It'll give it its credibility, and the stigma will be taken away, and it will be embedded in Western medicine finally. And the more indications have proven with efficacy, the better for the industry in general. I do believe there's a space for non-listed products. I think that'll continue. I think people want the minor cannabinoids and the full spectrum products. And will they be able to reach them in as you say, an adult use market, or will we still need to go to our doctor? I hope and believe that the access will be made simpler. So still you need a prescription, but you might need it once a year or every 6 months. So the visit to the doctor won't be onerous and expensive. It will be light and easy and safe. And you'll have like two streams. You can go to your doctor for your THC or minor cannabinoids, or your compounding pharmacist, the S3, which is more of an isolate product, which will do its due diligence and efficacy and safety, will hopefully be proven for, Matt, more of a kind of a nutraceutical type of product.
Yeah.
Can you see it becoming a recreational product?
You talk about a CBD S3 product, or a bit like in Canada?
Either.
I see. Listen, I see a CBD as becoming far more prevalent in the future. I think THC will be tightly controlled, a bit like alcohol.
Yeah.
With both checks and balances for the consumer and maybe the distributors, the pharmacists. So there might be limits on the amounts a person can purchase, which makes sense. How much cannabis can a person consume? And that may...
That was a question for you, Mitch.
Well, isn't it about 800 milligrams per kilo?
Yeah, before you walk wonky. But I think...
it happens a lot earlier than that.
Yeah, I think, if you look at the industry practically, at the end of the day, there's passion, we've seen anecdotal evidence where there is a nexus between a prescriber and an indication and a patient. We're seeing it a lot. We see it in the reviews we receive, emails. We call them appreciation bombs. We get an email, gets thrown to the whole team, and it's where a patient thanks what we're doing, and each time it comes in a different format, and it really hits your heart. And we realize that's why we're here. That's why we work after hours. We wake up early. We're all passionate to go to work the next day, because these appreciation bombs make it all the worthwhile.
Absolutely. I just want to pick up though on something you said about controls on alcohol. I mean, to my mind, there are a few really, and I guess all I'm just thinking of is, will we have a situation where you have, one day, not even a pharmacist supervising you or giving healthcare advice to enable you access to CBD? Will we actually have a retail scenario? A name actually popped into my head the other day. Please don't steal this. Can Murphy's. Will we have something like that where, you've got a range of retail CBD and CBG products? Is that on the horizon?
It's already created, Cannatrek warehouse.
Cannatrek warehouse.
It's coming soon to your local corner.
Lowest prices guaranteed.
Yeah, listen, it's interesting how the model, I mean, we've got the bottle shops for alcohol. It is unlimited, which is a bit scary. I think that we need to have the proper education, all the way through our educational system, and learn, the history, the nature of the plant, its properties, and let the consumer be informed, but also at the regulatory level, as you said, Mitch. How much can you consume in a day? So, that if it's limited, it will remove a lot of other issues. If it's unlimited, we know where that's going. So, both from the consumer, the pharmacist, etc. So interesting politically, but I don't think it needs a lot of complex laws.
If it's anything like Dan Murphy's, then yeah, you should see Andrew at 4 p.m. on a Saturday. They're just stocking up for the night. It's a pretty scary thought. Cannabis but no, like when you go to America, you see this. You go into dispensaries, quote unquote, not like we would have here, but you go in there and you meet the bud tender, and they take you through all the selections, and you buy, all different, moods and feelings that they tell you about: indica, sativa, different terpene blends, different cultivars, and you can really get into it from a bit of a chin stroker sommelier perspective and buy a whole range of stuff over there. And it seems to be at least quite popular. If you look at the stats on tax in places like Colorado and Washington State and California.
Yeah, but how many years did it take for that industry to develop? Like, I mean, over how many years? We're talking, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, I guess you got to a point in some states where the medical system was so loose that it was essentially felt like recreational in a sense. You get your medical card over there, and you just, you know what I mean. But so it was probably a bit of a lighter step, so to speak. But you couldn't see CBD, say, on the shelf next to Panadol at Woolies or something like that.
I think in a light form, we might see it. You know, it might be limited to under, 100 milligrams a packet. I don't know. I don't see why not. I mean, you see Panadol. We used to. I don't know if we still do.
Yeah, you see Panadol in there for sure. For sure.
So I think eventually we'll see that, but I think we'll have that. The Coles, the S3, and the prescription. It'll be nice categories, and you'll have the food at the health stop, at the wellness shop. Your hemp seeds and your oil.
I mean, you can walk into an Aldi in Switzerland right now and buy a CBD plant.
Buy the actual plant.
Actual plant.
Oh, wonderful! And
like it's almost like the last stop, that last room before you get to check out at IKEA. You get all the plants, real ones, fake ones, but you can definitely get the real ones over there. I've seen them in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs a bit of a generational shift. I think by the time your kids are in school, they'll probably be able to go to Aldi and
we'll be
not Woolies, just Aldi.
Yeah, we'll be instructing them, sending them off with a shopping list.
But I think now it's just fascinating how the supply chain is just organically growing, very exciting industry, and again, really fortunate to be a part of it.
A very big part of it. I've got one final question. I don't want to trample on Mitch if he's got any more, but I just wanted to know about, just broadly speaking, I know the export market is a really big part of Cannatrek's focus going forward, and a really big part of the Australian industry generally. How is all that shaping up? What are the challenges? Which areas are you excited about? What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think that the fact that there's not many companies who can export is pretty exciting, and that's when you think about it. I think there's 3 Australian companies or 4 have exported already, including Cannatrek. And, that's in the first year of operations is quite incredible. So we're set up for export through our GMP, mutually agreeable standards. And I think that that's a real unique opportunity that Canada had and may have missed out or other. America, US, is kind of stuck, and they've got a bigger market where they are, so I don't think they're really interested. So Australia being only 30 million people, even though we're quite high consumers per capita of cannabis, it is a natural opportunity. We believe that our best market is at our doorstep, and that's where we'll be focusing always, and putting the Australian patient first. It is challenging now. We have a lot of inquiries from Europe and UK. We've sent a few shipments. So, but their market is still in its infancy. So it's a bit of a juggling. Again, because the production volumes are quite small still in Australia.
Yeah. So to be, obviously service the domestic market first, and then look to
opportunities, pipelines. With the pharmaceutical, you don't want to swap and change. You build relationships. It's really important.
Yeah,
and that's what we're doing. And we've been
right. Well, last question I think from me would be: it's interesting. We've had quite a few medical professionals on here, a few doctors, pharmacists, and always kind of get the most, the general questions that the public's asking. But as a LP, what are the kinds of questions that you seem to get more regularly than others? What do people want to know? What are the biggest pain points? Can you just take us through that as a parting kind of thought?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest difficulties is that cannabis companies don't seem to make any money, and we've seen a bit of a train wreck in other areas of the world. But you do see businesses which have just simple fundamentals, just doing great things. So that's always asked a lot. You know, there's skeptics and say, and sometimes a bit impatient. You know, here we are in this project for over 5 years and just released medicine, you know, a few weeks ago. So you need a lot of patience, but we are dealing with a highly valuable commodity. And if you follow the simple fundamentals of not overextending yourself and visioning the industry, I think there is a great opportunity for building a tremendous business and also industry in Australia.
Fantastic. Well, I think that probably brings us to the end. If you have no more questions, Andrew.
No. The sort of overarching message I got from that last one was you need patience and patience. So, yeah.
And the patients need patience as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a circular economy, and it's all about the patient. I keep telling my team it's all about the patient.
And soon patents.
Sorry?
Patents as well.
Patents if you want to throw it in. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a beautiful plant that should be accessible to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
By guidance of the appropriate people.
Yeah. Well, we love the way that you go about it, Tommy, and we cannot thank you enough for giving us some of your time to take us through everything that you're up to. We really appreciate it. Cheers.
Good pleasure. Good luck with the podcast. I look forward to listening and seeing you guys do great things.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Tommy. We'll speak again soon.
Cheers, mate.
All right. Take care. Bye.